Pastor Hank, you were telling me earlier, let's talk about that. The prophetic word about some of these temperatures that seems to be happening right in front of us.
Yes, it is. Actually, you know, it's 80 degrees here in Omaha, Nebraska, which was very unusual here, not even spring. But God said ahead of time, back in September, it'd be an early spring. He said, pay attention in the United States. You'll see where there will be like summer temperatures. And then immediately it would drop to be winter. And we're going to see that tomorrow. It's only going to be like just barely 26, 27 degrees in Omaha, Nebraska. So there's going to be a deep drop. Why is it happening? God said, because it signals that change is in the air. So we need to get ready for the great changes that God has planned for you in the FlashPoint Army, but also this great nation, the United States. So I'm excited that these are just natural signs of what God's intent is for us upcoming this great year.
Yeah, amen. And I'm looking forward to that. And I know you are looking forward to great things happening this year. All right, so if you were watching over the weekend, South Carolina went to the polls and they voted. Now, let me show you this from CNN about Trump winning South Carolina. Watch.
Victory speech, overwhelming results in South Carolina. We called it right at the top of the hour as soon as the polls closed. Back with the team here in New York. Melissa, you've heard a lot of Trump speeches?
Yeah, I mean, R.I.P. the Reagan GOP. There's something so jarring about watching Lindsey Graham and Tim Scott, all of who condemned him after January 6th, lining up to do their best campaign rally impersonation and saying this is the most qualified man to be president.
The night of January 6th, Lindsey Graham was saying he was,
I'm done with him.
Enough.
I mean, listen, it is the greatest political comeback in history. Just 3 years ago, he was done in the party, and it only took a matter of months before he came back and handily won in Nikki Haley's home state. The question now becomes this. She's held on, we'll see where the margins break down tonight, to about just under a third of Republican votes in some of these primaries. How many of those votes will go to Donald Trump? Because he will need those in a general election. Some of those are never going to be with him, but how many is the open question now.
All right, so Floyd, you see that, you couldn't be more excited than Anderson Cooper. Well, looks like another win for Donald Trump. Let me show you this before. I want you to get your comment, but I want you to see this from Breitbart. This is a stat everyone needs to pay attention to. 70% of the Nikki Haley voters not registered Republicans, CNN exit poll says. Now that's CNN, and they're not even Republican voters. So what does that tell us, Floyd?
It tells us that the Republican Party is completely and totally unified. And, only in the dreams of CNN was Donald Trump not in a commanding lead with this party. We have seen people come together around Donald Trump with each and every attack. Every time they try to put him in jail, arrest him, bring up another phony baloney charge against this man, Americans are done with it. And it's actually going to end up, I think, causing a massive wave election. I think Pastor Hank is absolutely right. Change is in the air, and I'm predicting for this fall a massive switch, because the Democratic Party needs black voters, and they're losing them. They're losing them because these inner cities are just absolutely trashed, and they want to have a future. And legal immigrants are coming to Donald Trump. Latinos are coming to Donald Trump. Black Americans are coming to Donald Trump. And all of the people that were Trump supporters before, they're sticking with Donald Trump. Only the left-wing media thinks this is even a race.
It's true. Before I go to the next clip, Luke, let me get you to weigh in on this. You heard CNN's talk about it, and that whole 70% weren't Republicans because anybody can vote in South Carolina. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe that is correct. Individual states have different primaries and races and things like that. In New Hampshire in particular, it was interesting because there was an entire push for Democrats to register as undecideds and go into the state and try to flip it against Donald Trump. And that's something that Nikki Haley has to really answer for right now, because a lot of her financial backing is coming from Democrats as well. And they're not being ashamed of it. They really do want to foil to Donald Trump and the Republican Party. And unfortunately, it drains resources when we should all be coalescing around one individual, someone who is obviously going to win the primary election, so that we can go up against Joe Biden with everything we have. And voters have to ask themselves after a certain point, is Nikki Haley actually in this to try and accomplish whatever her policy goals are, or is she just in this for herself? And two things here. Number one, she's flip-flopped on every major issue within the last decade. She said China was good. Then she said China was bad. She said that social media users should have the government verify who they are. Then she said, I never said this. Said that we should raise the retirement age, and then she said we shouldn't raise it. Also said she'd never run against Donald Trump if he was actually running as well, and then she went back on that. So we know she flip-flops on policy. And when it goes to her own personal efforts to try to get across the finish line, when voters are going into the voting booth, they have to say, she's taken money from all of these Democrats. She is supporting policies that she has flip-flopped back and forth on. Does she actually have the best interest of the Republican Party at heart? Or is she draining resources away from a candidate who would go up against Joe Biden and fight for pro-life issues, pro-family issues, pro-Second Amendment issues, and pro-faith issues? And that's what voters have to really ask themselves at this point, because there is no contest right now. It's not even a race for second place. We'll give Nikki Haley the crown for second place, but stop draining resources.
Well, let me go back to you, Floyd, on that. Is Nikki really just doing that to, in case there's some reason that Donald Trump can't run, in the next few months, he's out? Is that why she's doing this?
Yeah. Well, the Republican never-Trumpers have this fiction in their mind that somehow the justice system is going to put Donald Trump behind bars. But Gene, let me just say it flat out. Donald Trump is going to be elected president this fall, and he's going to be the Republican nominee. And I don't even care if he's in an orange jumpsuit. People know that what they're doing to him is not right, and it's unjust. And I mean, the fact that these people are trying to take away Trump Tower from him, I mean, it is so outrageous. It's so over the top that people see it for what it is, a desperate attempt to stop Donald Trump any way they can. And yes, I have heard from Republican insiders that support Nikki Haley, well, we're just keeping this campaign alive so that come the convention time, when Donald Trump's in jail, then she's going to win the nomination, and things are going to be great. I don't care if Donald Trump is in jail; he'll win from jail.
Well, Floyd, I need you to just tell us what you think. Stop holding back. You need to come on, man. Just say what you think. Pastor Hank, I'll let you weigh in on this. What do you think about all this?
Well, first and foremost, I love what Donald Trump has always said, President Trump. He said, you're going to get tired of winning. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be huge. But I also remember what God said. God said that they were going to come after him, and that there would be different things that would happen, but God would interject himself in the life and in the candidacy of what he wants for Donald Trump, and he would put an I in the name Trump, and it would be triumph. And we're going to continue to see incredible victories as we go forward. But let's talk about Nikki for a moment. The never Nikki. I wouldn't put it past her. The reason she's staying in this, the reason why she's continuing to get Democratic funding is because maybe they're going to entertain the idea of a third party and see what they can do to try to steal more and more votes away from those who are going to vote for Donald Trump. But, she's losing a lot of support. I heard a rumor, I don't know if this is true, that even Coca-Cola is pulled out, and it wouldn't surprise me. Coca-Cola, the real thing, maybe they got real and realized that she's not really a legitimate candidate. So I think what we need to do is we need to continue to unite in the Republican Party. It seems like the Democrats can unite about lunacy and insanity, open borders, and all the other things that's destroying our country. Why not we in the Republican Party begin to unify about the things that will put America first and make this nation great again.
Well, the Koch brothers have indeed decided they're not going to support, but listen to what Nikki Haley had to say.
Quick, before I let you go, I mean, every other candidate wanted to have the backing of Koch, the Koch brothers. They have now said they're going to stand down at this point. How does that change your dynamic? Real quick, if you can, Governor.
It doesn't change our dynamic. They weren't helping us from a monetary standpoint. They were door knockers and phone callers.
They weren't giving, you didn't get any money from them?
No money from them, no.
Okay, Floyd, come on. They got no money?
Yeah, well,
you're telling me the Koch brothers were out there knocking on doors?
They were running an independent expenditure in support of Nikki Haley. They had their entire high-dollar network, and they were pouring money into her campaign through the individuals that are in that network. And they were also using the AFP, Americans for Prosperity, in order to door knock and help her campaign. But I think what the Koch brothers have realized is that they need to come together and support Donald Trump, because they are going to be in a really tough spot when he's running government. You know, what people don't realize is so much of this has to do with economic interests. And the Koch brothers have traditionally been in support of open borders because they love the cheap labor that pours in. The Koch brothers have, often been part of what I would call the uniparty. And so it is really clearly here they're stepping away from Nikki Haley, and I think a lot of the other billionaires will too, because it's becoming just plain as day that Donald Trump is the Republican nominee. And at a certain point, you just have to stop hitting your head against a wall.
All right, so Luke, according to Floyd there, the Koch brothers did not give her money directly. They just gave it to other people who gave the money. What does that say to you? You're involved. I mean, both you guys are involved in campaigns and running. What does that say to you as in what you do? How does that affect the candidate, if it was your candidate?
Yeah, it's not an uncommon strategy for individuals who like to pull the purse strings to be at the helm of this and then to say, hey, our donor networks are now going to give individually. So I think he's absolutely right. They do that not just through individual contributions from mega donors, but also to super PACs that can operate independently outside the campaign and oftentimes run as action arms of the party. You saw Ron DeSantis do that with his political super PAC over the last few months. And basically, the super PAC was working in unprecedented ways to try to make influences within the Republican primary. Didn't work out very well. They spent millions and millions of dollars. And I think that the Koch brothers, looking at this, did not see any sort of path to victory. Why would they continue to signal to their donors and the people who are funding the super PACs that they should spend any more money after resounding defeats in her home state of South Carolina and all of the other states that she's participated in? Don't forget, she lost to none of these candidates out in Nevada. And so every time that you see people move further and further away from a candidate and close their wallets and their purse strings, it signals that they're losing any sort of confidence or any ability to foresee that anyone will go up against Donald Trump in a Republican primary in a meaningful way.
All right, well, let's talk about the lawfare that's surrounding all of this. Wall Street Journal says Elon Musk and Donald Trump cases imperil the rule of law. American prosperity rests on equal justice. Delaware and New York judges have called it into question. Look who wrote this: Jeb Bush and Joe Lonsdale.
Joining me now is
Let me play this clip from CNN. Watch.
Co-founder of Palantir and managing partner of 8VC, Joe Lonsdale. Joe, thank you for being here. I'm curious, your co-author, Jeb Bush, no fan of Donald Trump. Why did he feel compelled to weigh in on this?
You know, Michael, I've never given Donald Trump a cent either. I love America. I've built a lot of businesses in this country. I love building, I love investing here. And this is very scary. I see the government weaponized against my friend Elon Musk. And listen, I don't love Donald Trump, but I was just with a bunch of my business friends who don't love him either. And all of them thanked me for writing this. They said, Joe, this is scary. What they're telling me is that if I speak up, if I run for office, they're going to come and they're going to find a huge way to penalize me for something that's just absolutely ridiculous. Like, everyone knows Donald Trump probably didn't do this perfectly, but they know that dozens of others didn't either. And it's obvious he's being penalized an insane amount of money because he's Donald Trump. And that's not how America is supposed to work.
Okay, you know the arguments in opposition to this being quote-unquote victimless. The idea is that he inflated his value, therefore was given preferential interest rates. Even if he repaid them, he took advantage of those banks. You would say what to that?
I would say that there's no one else in this country who would ever be fined even $50 million for this. And finding him $400 million for this or whatever it is clearly because she's trying to get Donald Trump. And it's the same thing with what's happening to Elon right now. It's activist judges who are saying, if you speak up, if you're a target of our political party, of our ideology. I mean, Elon has the DOJ going after him. He has the Labor Department going after him. He has these fish and wildlife people delaying things for months for silly reasons, making him write book reports, to them. And the whole system right now is being weaponized, and it's scary and it's wrong. This is what happens in emerging markets. It's not what happens in great countries like America, and we need it to stop.
Need it to stop. All right, Pastor Hank. Even his enemies are saying this is wrong.
Well, because I think people are starting to wake up and realize the foolishness that has come against President Trump with these false indictments. First and foremost, you can see that the judges and those that are the prosecutors, they're linked together. They conspired against President Trump privately, and they've got an agenda. They don't want President Trump to be our president. They also don't want President Trump to have any kind of money. And so it's all backfiring. And God said that this would happen, that it would backfire, and we're going to continue to see it backfire. And what they don't realize is people in America have had enough. And they realize that President Trump has already shown us 4 years. It's not some guy running for office for the first time that gives you all the campaign promises and then he doesn't fulfill it. Promises made, promises kept was what President Trump campaigned upon the first time, second time, and this is what he's continuing to do. So you're going to see more and more people come out. They're going to begin to support him. You're going to see those that label themselves as an enemy begin to shake his hand and really begin to support him in a way that is going to be shocking to a lot of people. You say, well, Pastor Hank, how do you know? We're already seeing it happen. But lastly, God prophesied, and he said, there will come a day that those who hate President Trump, that some will apologize and begin to change their ways and get behind him for the betterment of this country. And that will play out. And you'll see it in the months and years to come.
Yeah, let me go to you, Floyd, on that. The same thing. You see what they are saying. I mean, your thoughts.
Yeah, well, it's not just Donald Trump that's being attacked like this. They've weaponized the judicial system. And, we're dealing with it in the Kari Lake campaign, where the Maricopa County recorder, Stephen Richer, has sued Kari Lake for defamation. So this is the guy who sends out the ballots, who registers people to vote, who is the official in Maricopa County, the largest county in Arizona. He sued Kari Lake, and it's all being funded by a left-wing group that's funded by billionaires like George Soros. So yes, Donald Trump is the most well-known example, but they're doing it all over the country against candidates they don't like. And it's wrong, it's un-American, and it's got to stop. And I think people that are fair-minded, they see this and they don't want it to continue.
No, they don't want it to continue. In fact, what they don't want to continue is an open border. If you were watching the news at all this weekend or today, you heard about Laken Riley, University of Georgia college student. Watch this. She was murdered by an illegal.
We're getting new details in the murder of a 22-year-old Georgia student, Laken Riley, that's sparking massive outrage after ICE officials confirmed that her alleged killer was in the country illegally. Critics are blaming Biden's open border policies for the death of this innocent young woman. Hello, everyone. This is Outnumbered. I'm Kayleigh McEnany, here with my co-host, Harris Faulkner. Also joining us, Fox Business anchor and host of American Dream Home on Fox Business, Cheryl Casoni. Fox News contributor and former State Department spokesperson, Marie Harf. and Fox News contributor and senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, Mark Thiessen. Well, we now know that the prime suspect charged in Laken Riley's murder was 26-year-old Jose Antonio Ibarra. He's originally from Venezuela. He illegally entered the United States back in 2022. Ibarra previously lived in New York City for over a year, but in September, he was arrested and charged with child endangerment. And once the NYPD cut him loose, Ibarra packed his things and headed south. Now, some outraged lawmakers are pinning Laken Riley's death on President Biden and his failure to secure the border.
Biden and the Democrats' open border policy have allowed this man to come into our country, give him parole, and kill an innocent young woman.
This is what we've been asking for, and this is what we've been talking about for over 2 years now. In a recent September letter that the Republican governors wrote to the president and the administration, you know, who are these people? Where are you sending them? And we have yet to receive that information. And now something like this happens. Why are we allowing people to come here that are not U.S. citizens and break our laws and then not send them back home? These are the answers that we need to get from the Biden administration.
Yeah, definitely need to get that from the Biden administration. All right, Luke, I know you've heard the story. I want to give you the ability to comment here before we go any further. This is horrible, but you kind of knew something might happen if things weren't in check, and this is what we have.
These are symptoms of a republic in decline. When we have our law and order being tarnished, when we have people going after Donald Trump and political figures harder than they would ever go after somebody who committed child endangerment and then ultimately murder, these are major, major issues, and it shows that they are not taking our nation seriously right now. I mean, our wide open southern border to the Democrats has just been a joking issue. They have literally just joked about it over the last few years. They've said that Republicans are fear-mongering, when in reality we know that upwards of 200 people who have crossed our southern border have been on the terrorist watch list. And those are only the ones that we have identified. We don't know who is coming into our country, but Donald Trump is right. Too many of them are committing crime in the United States, murderers and rapists. They're bringing drugs over. The drug cartels are utilizing this open southern border to send fentanyl into the United States, enough on a given week to kill the entire United States maybe once or twice over. And the blood is on the Biden administration's hands for not solving this problem. They didn't want to address it because they'd have to admit that Donald Trump was right. But we're not trying to say that people are evil. We're trying to say that we must protect those who are inside our country and vet the ones that want to come in. We have a legal immigration system, and there are plenty of people who are following the law and who are coming across our border and going through our legal immigration process who are properly vetted and then either denied or allowed in. But why would they go through that process if they can just as easily cross the southern border and far more easier in such a quicker period of time? So if we don't get serious about securing our border and ensuring that we have a robust legal immigration process, then we are not ever going to solve the law and order issues that are happening in America. And mark my words, more people are going to die unless we get serious about fixing this problem.
Well, we do need to get serious about it. And this is where I would say normally elections have consequences. And this is why it's so important you vote for the right candidate in this fall's election and whatever happens next week in your local elections.